Hi, welcome friends. Today we are going to watch an amazing drama called The Truman Show. Imagine this. What if your entire life was being broadcast to the whole world and you didn't even know about it? One day, you discover that you've been living in a reality show your entire life. What would you do? Sounds different, right? Without wasting time, let's see what happens in this movie. In the beginning, a man named Chris speaks to us about a show called The Truman Show. He explains that in most reality shows, the participants know they're being filmed, so they often hide their true personalities and act in front of the camera for popularity. But what if someone didn't know they were part of a reality show since birth? Then you get to see the real life of a person, and that's what this show is about. In the next scene, they introduce an actress named Mary. She says she's playing Truman's wife in the show. Then they introduce Marlon, who plays Truman's best friend. He explains that this show isn't fake, but everything is controlled for one person, Truman. Knowing all this, we to ourselves start to feel more interested in Truman and his life. In the next scene, we see the hero, Truman. He motivates himself by looking into the mirror, unaware that the mirror is actually a camera, and he's being watched by millions all over the world. It's the 10,909th day of the show. Keep in mind, Truman has been living a normal life, just like us, but we, the audience, know that he's actually in a reality show. Every character and event is happening inside a massive studio, but Truman has no idea about any of it. As usual, Truman greets his next-door friend, something he does every day. When he heads to his car, there's an old man who always says good morning to him and carries a bucket. However, on that bucket is actually a camera. Truman is about to get into his car when suddenly something falls from the sky. Upon seeing it, he thinks it looks like a studio spotlight. In reality, it was accidentally dropped from the studio's roof. But since he's late for work, he gets into his car and drives off, not thinking much of it. In his car, there's another secret camera broadcasting him 24/7. Cameras are placed everywhere Truman goes. While driving, the radio announces that some aircraft parts have fallen in the island. This is actually just an explanation for the fallen spotlight, designed to keep Truman from getting suspicious. Hearing this, he assumes that the fallen spotlight is just debris from an aircraft. After parking, Truman happily walks to his office, unaware that everyone around him were actors. There are two elderly men who always talk to him in a specific spot. Why? Because there's an advertisement posted on the wall there, and the show's producers want to display the ads as part of their sponsorship. After that, Truman buys some magazines and heads to his office. He is calling while thinking he was making a secret phone call to a travel agency, but in reality, he was being watched by viewers all over the world. He inquires about Fiji Island, a place he's always wanted to visit. Suddenly, a staff member comes over and shows him a newspaper. He tells him that their island is the best place to live. This, too, is part of the manipulation. The show's team sent a staff member to make sure Truman stays on the island, because if Truman leaves, the show would end. After this, he gathers the pieces of paper from the magazine to create a woman's face. Meanwhile, his boss arrives and tells him to go to Harbor Island for a job. Truman hesitates, but the boss strictly orders him to go to Harbor Island. No other way. Truman is about to board a ship to Harbor Island, but he's afraid of the sea, so he returns home. In the next scene, Truman is cleaning the garden when his wife arrives and shows him a knife, which is also an advertisement. That night, Truman and Marlon meet. Truman tells his friend that this life is boring and that he plans to go to Fiji Island. Instantly, Marlon receives instructions to change Truman's mind. He tells Truman that he had good job and best place to live in here itself, but Truman is firm in his decision. Marlon then asks, "Where is that Fiji Island?" Truman replies that it's directly opposite their island. To divert him, Marlon asks, "Shall we drink?" But Truman hesitates and walks to the shore. There, they show a flashback of when Truman and his father went fishing in his childhood. Due to rainstorm, his father sank into the sea. But this was all staged as part of drama to make Truman fear the sea, so he wouldn't leave. This explains why Truman is scared of the sea and saddened by the loss of his father. Now we understand why Truman has never left the island since childhood. Suddenly, rain begins to fall only on Truman, which is a technical error. Truman is confused, but before he can doubt it, The rain starts falling everywhere. Later, he goes home and tells his wife, "Mary, we've already earned enough. Why can't we leave this island and go somewhere?" His wife reminds him about their debts and commitments. Whenever Truman thinks about leaving the island, his friends and family are all instructed to change his mind and make him stay in the island, so they won't let him think about it. This show was being watched by an audience, and they talked about it. One of them said, "In this show, they show everything from brushing teeth to burning toast, but the moment someone heads to the bedroom, the camera suddenly remembers it has privacy settings." Said in a humorous. The next day, as usual, Truman was on his way to work. But something unexpected happened. His father, who was supposed to be dead, was standing there, looking older. Truman was in shock and confusion. Just as he was about to speak to him, a group of studio staff rushed in and took his father away. Truman tried to stop them, but they quickly concealed him from view. Truman, completely baffled, had no idea what had just happened. He went straight to his mother to talk about it. Yes, as you may have guessed, she's also an actress in this story. When Truman told her that he had seen his father, she casually replied, and you loved him so much. Sometimes we get illusions like this. I've seen him too, many times." Her explanation convinced him for the moment. Truman believed her, went home, opened an old trunk, and looked at some photos of his father. Among them was a wool sweater. Seeing it stirred up deep emotions in Truman. This moment was being watched by a group of people in a bar. They were discussing a woman and how the producers had replaced Truman's wife in the show. But Truman never forgot the woman he truly loved. In a flashback, we see a woman named Lauren from Truman's college days. Truman had fallen in love with her. According to the script, Lauren was supposed to be Truman's wife. But Mary, another actress, was cast as his wife in the show. However, Truman genuinely loved Lauren. One day, Truman was about to tell his love to Lauren. According to the script, if he tells his love, they would get married. But Lauren secretly wrote, "Have to leave now." Lauren came into the show as an actress, but she truly fell in love with Truman. She couldn't bear the thought of his whole life being a stage performance. She wanted to tell him the truth. She took him to the beach, away from all cameras. But before she could explain, the crew found out and sent a man in car pretending to be her father. He came to take her away, but before leaving, she cried out to Truman, "Everything you see is not real. Everyone is fake. Even the sea is fake. You're in a show. My name is not Lauren, it's Sylvia. I live in Fiji. If you ever discover the truth, come find me. I'll be waiting for you, Truman." And with that, her father dragged her away. Truman was left stunned and confused. Imagine someone telling you that your whole life is fake, that you're in a show, and the entire world is watching you. Would you believe it? That's exactly what the situation Truman was in. So, the producers changed Truman's wife, and he eventually married Mary. But Truman never forgot Sylvia. He collected magazine clippings and pieced together her image, trying to recreate her face. And Sylvia, watching Truman on the TV show, still loved him too. She believed that one day he would discover the truth and come to Fiji. As usual, one day while driving to the office, Truman heard strange chatter over a radio frequency. Walkie-talkie instructions saying Truman is approaching the building. This made him suspicious. He got out of the car and noticed strange things happening around him. Instead of going into his office, he entered another building not included in the script. The crew panicked. He wasn't supposed to be there. When Truman reached the elevator, he was shocked to see backstage crew members eating and relaxing. The elevator wasn't real. It was part of the backstage set. This made Truman's suspicions grow even stronger. Confused, Truman went to his best friend and said, "I feel like everything around me is fake." But his friend, also part of the script, tried to calm him down, saying, "You're just imagining things. If everything was fake, how could the sun rise and set? How could the entire world act for just one man?" Truman was convinced by his friend that he was in the real world. In the next scene, the director instructed Truman's mom and wife to emotionally convince him. They showed him an album full of old family photos, trying to distract him from his doubts and bring back memories from his childhood. But when Truman saw a photo of Mount Rushmore that looked unusually small, he pointed it out. They quickly closed the album and told him they were going out shopping. Later, Truman kept looking through the photos. In one of his wedding pictures, he used a magnifying glass and noticed that Mary's fingers were crossed, symbolizing that the marriage wasn't real. That was it. His small suspicions turned into strong doubts, and he decided he would uncover the truth about what was happening around him. Now, Truman was ready. He had made up his mind to find out what was really going on. The next day, as per the script, Truman's wife Mary was about to leave the house for work. Her character is a nurse. However, Truman asks her to take a day off. She hesitates because that's not in the script. Suspicious, Truman asks, "Why can't you take a day off?" Panicking, Mary says she has important work at the hospital. With no other option, Truman allows her to go, but he becomes determined to uncover the mystery behind her behavior. After she leaves, Truman takes his bicycle and heads to the hospital. Seeing him approach, the hospital staff panic and try to stop him. Truman pretends to leave, but secretly sneaks in. He believes he's going unnoticed, but in reality, the whole world is watching. The show's coordinators quickly send in actors disguised as patients in wheelchairs to block him, and the hospital staff also try to intercept him. Using this distraction, they hastily set up a fake operation room before Truman arrives. Truman sees the setup, but before he can react, the security guard arrive and forcibly remove him from the hospital. Refusing to give up, Truman decides to leave the island. He goes to the bus station to board a bus. But before he arrives, everything was prepared fakely that the bus is filled with fake actors. He boards the bus, but after driving a short distance, they make engine to smoke fakely, pretending the bus has broken down. People watching the show on TV are now eagerly waiting to see what Truman will do next. In the next scene, Truman is in his car. Mary arrives, and he boards her in. He watches the mirror and tells her something strange is going on. Mary tries to brush it off, saying, "This happens every day." Truman then gets an idea and says, "Why don't we skip our daily routine and leave the island?" He starts driving. Mary panics. As usual, they try to block him by creating a traffic jam. Truman shouts, "I knew this would happen. They always try to stop me." Mary tries to manipulate him, saying the traffic is normal on this road. But Truman quickly makes a roundabout go around and around in it, driving in circles to confuse them so they can't predict which direction he'll go. By making this diversion, he escapes from the traffic and finally reaches the island's exit, but suddenly stops the car. A childhood trauma paralyzes him. There's a bridge, and Truman has a deep fear of water. He panics, but this time he's determined to leave. He drives the car. In his panic, he gets hands off from steer and closes his eyes. Mary, also panicked, somehow she controls the steering wheel and crosses the bridge. After crossing the bridge, as usual, the showrunners try to stop him again. They issue a fake wildfire alert and even set part of the road on fire. But Truman doesn't stop. He drives straight through the flames. Before Truman arrives, the crew prepares a large emergency setup. As Truman drives, he's stopped by the police. One of the officers tells him that no one is allowed to go further because of a massive fire caused by a radiation leak at a nuclear plant. To Truman, this seems real, so he decides to turn back. But just as he's about to leave, the actor playing the police officer makes a mistake and casually says, "Okay, Truman, have a good day." Hearing this, Truman suddenly becomes suspicious. Wait a minute. What, does he know my name? He wonders. Immediately, he gets out of the car and runs into the nearby forest, determined to escape the island, on foot if he has to. But soon, they catch him and bring him back home. Back at the house, Truman is devastated. While he sits in silence, confused and upset, Mary continues playing her role. Amid the chaos, she suddenly advertises a coffee brand, saying with a forced smile, "You seem confused. Why don't you drink this coffee?" while holding the box like a product placement. Truman, now truly fed up, angrily yells, "Why are you talking like that? Why are you promoting products like it's an advertisement? Tell me the truth. Are you one of them?" Shouts. Panicked, Mary takes knife in fear, but Truman quickly holds her. As she screams, "Someone help me!" Truman angrily asks her, "There are only two of us here. Who are you asking for help?" But Mary, trying to manipulate, says, "I'm calling to God." Meanwhile, the crew sends Marlon, Truman's best friend, to calm things down. He enters casually, carrying beer, acting like everything is normal. Seeing him, Mary rushes over and whispers, "Just get me out of this house." Now alone with Truman, Marlon tries to comfort him. "Why are you doing all this? I and you were friends since childhood. Don't you trust me?" Truman, emotionally shattered, replies, "No, Marlon, everything around me feels fake. My life, it doesn't feel real. It's like everything's artificial." Unknown to Truman, Marlon is being fed lines by the show's director through an earpiece. The director decides to emotionally manipulate Truman through his best friend. Marlon continues, delivering lines from the director, "Where this all started with your father. Just believe in God, pray, and you'll see him again." Following this, the production team stages a dramatic reunion. They bring in Truman's father, who had supposedly died years ago. As instructed by the director, they increase the smoke and dim the lights to create a dramatic and emotional atmosphere. Their goal is to make Truman believe it's a miracle, an act of God. When Truman sees his father, he's overwhelmed with emotion. After years apart, he slowly walks toward him, tears in his eyes, and embraces him tightly. The scene is broadcast live on television, creating a huge spike in TRP. Viewers across the world cry as they watch, deeply moved by the apparent reunion. Many say they felt as though they had reunited with their own fathers. Sylvia, watching from afar, is furious. She's the only one who knows the truth, that Truman is being deceived for the sake of TRP and show. Unlike the audience, she's not fooled. She knows Truman's emotions are real, but they're being used as content for a show. He's a human being, she thinks angrily. How can someone control an entire man's life? Truman was meant to be free. That's why Sylvia is angry, because they play with real man's emotion by creating fake characters with that the world is entertained, but Truman was not happy. In the next scene, for the first time, the director of The Truman Show appears live on television. He's the mastermind behind the show. The interviewer asks him how the idea for The Truman Show came about. As he begins to speak, the camera zooms out, revealing the vast studio where Truman was born and raised. The studio is massive, huge than a studio. It's Truman's entire world, and not just broadcast in America, but all over the world. Millions of people are watching, and the audience is captivated by Truman's life. The interviewer then asks, "How did you manage it every time Truman doubted he was in a show, especially when someone tried to reveal the truth to him?" The director responds, "It happened many times. Apart from internal errors, there have been several instances where fans tried to secretly enter the studio to tell Truman the truth. Once on his birthday, someone parachuted in with a sign that said, 'You're on TV.' But we always managed to handle these situations, keeping the show running." The interviewer asks, "Why did you make Truman's father character pass away?" The director explains, "Truman has always wanted to travel the world, even as a child. As he grew older, his curiosity intensified, and we realized we could control him in many ways, but we couldn't control the sea. So, we created a childhood trauma. His father drowned at sea, which gave Truman a deep fear of water. That fear kept him from trying to leave." The interviewer says there are spectators in line. Sylvia comes on call and yells at the director, "How can you use a man's true emotions for a TV show without his permission? You're playing with his feelings. His life is not your entertainment." Many viewers support with Sylvia, but the director defends his actions. Even though Truman's world is fake, he's safe. He's been happy, and the world loves watching him. Meanwhile, Truman goes to his routine, greeting his neighbors, chatting with elderly people, and living what seems to be a normal day in his life. The next day, however, Truman doesn't wake up at his usual time. An hour passes, then 2, and still no movement from his bed. The director grows suspicious. He zooms in on Truman's room and sees no activity. Instructing the team to send Marlon in to check, the studio becomes chaotic. Marlon enters Truman's room, but Truman isn't there. Instead, Marlon finds a mannequin in bed and also finds recorded Truman snoring record and takes it clear Truman has escaped. The team cuts the live broadcast. In a panic, the entire studio staff gathers to search for Truman. The director asks, "Had you checked the sea?" to the team. One team member responds, "He's always been terrified of water. We didn't think to check the sea." Director yelled at the team. He immediately instructs the team to check the sea footage. As he suspected, Truman has faced his fears. He's in a small boat, sailing away from the island. Meanwhile, the show's sponsors demand the show be aired live. They're concerned about their investment. Reluctantly, the director starts the broadcast. The whole world is watching Truman sail in a small boat, clutching a photo of Sylvia. Everyone is eager to see if you'll find her. Sylvia, watching from afar, is elated. She waits anxiously for Truman to find his way to her. But the director knows that if Truman leaves the island, the show ends. He has complete control over the studio and is determined to stop Truman. He orders the team to create a massive storm, complete with heavy rain and towering waves. Truman's boat is caught in the storm, but he refuses to stop. The director orders the intensity to increase. The sponsors advises him to stop. "If Truman dies on live TV, our business will collapse," they say. The director responds coldly, "Truman was born to entertain the world. His life has always been for the show. If he dies, so be it." The storm grows more violent, and Truman's boat capsizes, throwing him into the sea. The audience watches in horror as Truman disappears beneath the waves. The director, feeling a moment of guilt, instructs the team to make everything normal again. Truman's sunken boat is recovered, but Truman, unconscious but alive, emerges from the water. He begins to continue his journey. The world is watching, and Truman breathes in the fresh air of freedom. But then something strange happens. His boat hits something solid. Truman looks up and sees the edge of the set, a massive wall designed to look like the sky. When he touches it, a set of stairs emerges. Truman climbs them. At the top of the stairs, there's a door. Just as he reaches for the handle, the director's voice comes through the speakers. The director says, "Truman, do you know the truth now? You're in a reality show. You've been watched by millions all over the world since the day you were born." Truman stands frozen. He responds, "I knew. I felt it." The director continues, "You're the hero of this story, Truman. Millions have watched you since childhood. Now, you have decision in your hands. You can leave this world and go into the real one, but it won't be the same. The real world has competition, jealousy, violence, and dangerous war. Or you can stay in your safe world, the world you've known all your life." Truman thinks, considering the offer. The director asks him, "Say something, Truman. The whole world is watching you." Truman turns toward the camera, looking directly to the skies, and says, "Good morning, and in case I don't see you later, good afternoon, good evening, and good night." He then opens the door and steps out of the studio. The entire world celebrates this moment of freedom. Sylvia, watching from her home, is overjoyed. Truman has finally made it. She stands up, ready to go to him, as the world continues to watch. And that's the end of this story. Hope you all enjoyed it.